And let me now bring in my colleague Anil Thomas for more on this, joining us from the newsroom. Well, good morning, Anil. Right now, of course, the projections are 227 for Trump and 165 for Kamala Harris. But this was a much wider gap about an hour or so ago. So what's really happening here?
Well, good morning, Gautam. Well, flipping California there has been the game changer for Kamala Harris and the Democrats. 54 seats, 54 electoral votes there, clearly helping Kamala Harris bounce back much stronger. But early indications that we are getting from the swing states, North Carolina 2020 went with Donald Trump, very much on the expected lines. Early indications that coming that in all the battleground states of North Carolina, according to news agencies there, clearly indicating that that could be going Trump's way. Remember, Trump had won it in 2020. That is the only swing state that Trump had won in 2020. So 4 years later, not much has changed. But can he flip the other 6 states? That's going to be the big ask that the Republicans will be looking, and Trump will have to make some headway there. If once another red wall is breached there in the swing state, things could get pretty close there for Kamala Harris and the Democrats, and people would be watching these swing states, because till now, whatever election numbers that we have seen, there's nothing that's changed for anybody. Either camp, the Democrats as well as the Republicans, are breathing easy. But purely in terms of lead or momentum that's been built, Trump has the edge, and that's where things stand. But North Carolina, again, indications that Trump once again might win it. Again, not much of a change, but clearly a positive step in the right direction for Trump and for the Republicans.
Yes, right now, if you look at the numbers, even in a state like Wisconsin, which is a swing state, Donald Trump is up by about 3 percentage points, and the mother of all contests in Pennsylvania, again Trump is up 51.3% versus Harris's 47.6%. But even this could change, because there is an urban-rural divide there in Pennsylvania, and Trump was a little while back charging that cheating is happening in Philadelphia, which is the largest city in Pennsylvania.
Well, in the swing states, all the 3 states that are blue wall states, that's Pennsylvania, Michigan, along with Wisconsin, it's very much expected that, especially the a large scale or large number of trade unions that exist there clearly back Kamala Harris. They backed Joe Biden in 2020. So very much expected on the same lines that they're going to back Kamala Harris in 2024. But that's a big ask. A 3% lead in Wisconsin clearly could be the game changer. Remember, the last 2 presidents that won the elections in Wisconsin, the vote percentage, the winning margin was a little over 1%. So that's indicative of how those elections have gone. And if a 3% lead has been opened by Trump in Wisconsin, it clearly could be happy smiles as we head into the night in America, especially for the Republican team and Donald Trump in particular. Remember, whatever be the outcome of the results, both sides don't seem to be, edging out or, throwing their hat in the ring. They are rather looking at making their speeches today. So either camps, we could expect them to come out and make a big speech there for their voters and for their followers. So we'll have to wait and watch, but no camp giving an inch away, irrespective of fact how these election numbers are shaping up.
All right, let me also bring in our expert guest. Joining us from Washington, D.C. is Jayant Krishna, Senior Fellow, CSIS. Thank you, Jayant, for joining us at this late hour, I'm sure, in Washington, D.C. But I'm sorry, I'm told that you are in Delhi at the moment. Sorry about that. But just tell me, how do you see this going from here? Because now California, which is the largest state in terms of electoral votes, has been counted in favor of Kamala Harris. If she is to win this election, what could really be her path, and how much of a support does she need from the swing states?
See, these are, I would say, still anybody's game, early trends. Of course, as far as trends go, Trump seems to have an edge. But since you're talking about Kamala Harris, I think if she is voted to power, few things are very, very clear, that there'll be a policy continuity from the past. And also, largely people all over the world expect that if Kamala Harris comes to power, she gets into the White House, it will be more humanitarian, more principled, and, more responsible leadership. and more predictable as against Trump. He will not be very predictable. Even if you look at a lot of people think that Trump has been very good for the American business, but if you look at the total funds which were raised by Kamala Harris, they are head and shoulder more above those raised by from American businesses, those raised by Trump. So I think that shows that the business in the US also has been largely in favor of Kamala Harris vis-a-vis Donald Trump. But if you could go look at the trends today, they're about Trump is ahead in about 230 seats and Kamala Harris about 192 seats, which surely shows the other way around. But don't forget the 2020 elections also. The early indications were in favor of Trump, but eventually Joe Biden had won those elections. So I think it is still anybody's game. But some of the news that I have been getting of late is that Trump is, Republican Party is leading in many of the swing states. If that's actually true, and if substantive number of votes have been counted there, then that could be a matter of great concern for Democrats and for Kamala Harris for sure. So I think let's see in a couple of hours' time things will become clearer. But as of now, it appears to be advantage Trump, but it could go anyway. So far, among the results declared, there have not been any major surprises. But if these trends in the swing states, the seven swing states, if that's any indication, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada, North Carolina. I think if Trump is leading there, I think that could be that could draw that would lead things to his to the win of Republicans for sure. So let's see. Still early stage, I would say. Things change, and any projections which are being given right at this point of time are merely indicative of the fact that if the votes which have not been counted, if the voting pattern remains the same, as the votes which have been counted. So I think it's, to my mind, it is a slight advantage to Trump, but it could be anybody's game.
Certainly, I mean, it's what it looks right now. It certainly looks like it's advantage Trump at the moment because he's leading as far as the Edison Research projections are concerned, and the numbers that they're putting up are concerned, being shared by Reuters. All the blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Trump is leading right now. But again, there's that, do you think the urban-rural factor will come into play because rural votes get counted first and urban cities are slower and the numbers are bigger?
Yeah, surely. So I think not just the states, some of the key counties, as you're talking about the urban-rural divide and a difference in the voting pattern. But yes, surely the key counties matter more than the smaller and relatively less significant counties. I think that's very, very important. And the overall numbers are yet to see the light of the day. One would also, if women, like in 2020, more American women had voted than American men. If the same trend is true this year also, I think that would be advantage Kamala Harris, although that doesn't appear to be the case at this point of time. And I think the lines are so clearly drawn in the US. If you look at the people who are graduates and above, they seem to have preferred Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. If you look at women, more women have preferred Kamala Harris than Trump. If you look at the whites versus non-whites, more non-whites have voted for Kamala Harris. So I think it is anybody's guess. Very, very difficult to forecast at this point of time. As I said earlier, also the trends in 2020 presidential elections in the US. The earlier trends which were available, they were completely they got upset later part of the year. But yes, it looks difficult. I have been tracking US elections for at least 20-30 years now, and I've never seen such a close contest ever, not even in 2020, where Joe Biden eventually won. So, but one thing is very clear. I don't think it will go on for next 3 or 4 or 5 days, as was the case in 2020. I would believe in next few hours time itself, die would have been cast and things would be far clearer this time than they were in 2020.
Right. And Jayan Krishna, another close contest is playing out right now in the case of Georgia, where we have a scenario where about 90% of the vote has been counted, and Donald Trump has a narrow lead. He's at 50.8%, and Harris is 48.3%. So, do you think that this will remain the way it is, or it can still change? 92% of expected votes counted. That's what Edison research is saying.
So I would feel in Georgia, Georgia is likely to go, the Republican way, the Trump way, because with just 8% votes remain to be counted, and the gap is not as narrow. So I think, Kamala Harris is, Democrats are likely to lose Georgia to Republicans. I don't think the trend would change majorly now, unless one knows the county-wise position, and some counties where Democrats are expected to perform better if larger chunk is left there. But overall, statistically speaking, I don't think it will get reversed with the 92% of the votes having been counted already.
Okay. Do you see a scenario then that we might have, like the last time it happened, Donald Trump coming out within the next 1 hour or so before, everybody really calls it a night to declare that he's won, only to find out in the morning that things might have changed?
So, I think this time he'll be more careful. Having tasted failure last time in 2020, I think he'll be more careful, and he won't jump and come forward to declare his win. He would wait for longer time this time, having seen the reversal in the trend in 2020,
Anil Thomas, my colleague, is still with me. Anil, do you have any fresh updates that you might have to share with us in terms of how things are going? Because now things seem to be slowing down a bit as well.
Gautam, a quick update there from North Carolina. It's almost gone Trump's way. We'll just wait for the final confirmation to come in. With regards to Georgia, yes, there is a 3% lead that Trump is holding at this point of time. But a few years back, the lead was close to 11%. So there is a lot of cutting that Kamala Harris and the Democrats have done in Georgia, and that's good. But with 92% of the vote counted, it's almost that Atlanta region that Kamala Harris is looking for a big comeback. If Atlanta goes Kamala Harris's and Democrats' way, we could still see Georgia going down to the wire. But cutting the lead from 11% to 3% now, I think the Democrats have put up a very good fight there. Remember, they have retained that seat in 2020. So it's an uphill task for Trump to pull that off. But having North Carolina under his belt and also looking at Georgia, with the final 8% of votes left, things could get interesting, and the smiles could be back in the Trump camp when you have, one swing state that could flip for you. But still, we'll wait for a little more while to get confirmation. But North Carolina almost headed the Republican way like it did in 2020. So in the swing states, not much has happened. But I think surely the three crucial states in that swing state, Pennsylvania, Michigan and Wisconsin, that could be where, Kamala Harris now would be looking to make a comeback. Early reports indicate that she is breaching the 200 seat mark now. But we'll wait for confirmations. 205 to 230 is the projections that I'm seeing from reports. But we'll wait for confirmations at this point of time. But it's going to go down to the wire for sure.
Yes, some networks have already projected North Carolina in favor of Donald Trump. But let's also talk about the fact that it's not just the presidential election that is unfolding right now. In the US, the entire House of Representatives and 34 seats in the Senate are also up for grabs. Most are being held. One Senate seat has been swung for now, and that is the composition that we're seeing the US House of Representatives and Senate till 0430 GMT or 2130 IST. So that's how things stand at the moment. The majority mark, as you see, is 218, and right now this is how wins or losses and projections have been put out. So the House is still open. The Senate right now, there is Republicans with 48 and 33, but they need 51. So they need to add 3 more to their tally. The Republicans are the ones who hold the House of Representatives, the existing one, which is the outgoing one, and it's the Democrats who've been enjoying a very, very slim majority in the Senate, where we've seen Kamala Harris as Vice President casting the final vote, the decisive vote on several occasions. Jayant Krishna, how do you think things are shaping up where the House of Representatives and the Senate is concerned? Because especially in the Senate, while the Republicans needed to flip 2, they managed to flip 1 so far.
No guesses on that front. Let's see. I'm only looking at the picture in totality rather than the 2 houses separately.
Okay. And in terms of the gubernatorial races, the governor races, we have one notable loss there for Mark Robinson. But what about the others?
No idea on that front either. I have not been tracking, people in the race for governorship. I have not been tracking that. At least those results have not come out except 1 or 2 from whatever I have seen across TV channels and on the internet.
All right. Anil, if I could come to you and ask you about how things are shaping up as far as the House of Representatives and the Senate is concerned, because particularly in the Senate, the majority that the Democrats had was wafer thin.
Well, exactly, Gautam. But before that, let me just give you a quick update. 2 states where the results are coming. One is Virginia, where Kamala Harris has won. There are 13 electoral votes that are there that matter. And also the other update that's coming from Washington, where Harris has won Washington. There are close to 12 electoral votes there that matter. And putting these 25 electoral votes together, Kamala Harris slowly chugging along. But, the swing states are a cause of concern. The lead in Pennsylvania, now that Trump has opened, is close to 58,000 votes. And that's a cause of concern there for the Democrats and the Kamala Harris team. Along with Michigan too, indicating that Trump is opening a sizable lead there, which could be crucial. Remember, they are blue wall states, and for any inroads that Democrats and Kamala Harris would be looking for reaching the White House, crucial states, crucial swing states where they need to get their numbers right. But as things stand, still early, but Donald Trump having a sizable lead, especially in Pennsylvania, a 58,000 lead is a sizable number of votes that he has in his bag. And, the Trump camp, when you look at both the camps, they both have announced that they're going to speak, both the leaders are going to speak tonight. But we'll have to wait and watch. It could be, Kamala Harris team has indicated that it's going to be a long night ahead. So she's asked the team now to catch some sleep because the results are going to take a lot of time. But the mood is very upbeat in the Trump camp. That's another indicator of how these elections have played out. At least the first half of this counting has very much been, Trump being able to regain the smile he lost in 2020. But we'll wait and watch how Kamala Harris does this.
Okay. Now, let's also play out for our viewers the fact that we are seeing these projections, but they are pretty much on expected lines because what has been blue in the past has stayed blue, and what has been red in the past has so far stayed red. Nothing has been flipped as we speak in terms of the entire state, and this is how historically the situation has been, because there are certain states that are solidly Democratic, such as California, and then there are lean Democratic states, and if you go to competitive states, which are actually the swing states or the battleground states, they're there in the middle of that chart. Then there are lean Republican states, which are fewer than the lean Democrat states, just by 2, and number of solid Republican states are quite, well, numerous, but again, the weight of the electoral votes kind of balances things out where it really matters. Let me bring in Jayant Krishna once again, because the numbers again seem to be changing It is 169 for Harris now and 230 for Donald Trump. But where do you think these further changes could come, which might put the contest to as close as it had been projected, Jayant Krishna?
So I have a feeling, the states which have taken a lead in counting, very clearly, those are the ones where Republican Party has an edge. I mean, the final tally, even if Trump wins, will not be as widely, the variation between the two numbers will not be as much as you see. You're saying is 169 Kamala Harris and 230 for Donald Trump at this point of time. I believe this would change even if Trump wins. It will be quite a narrow kind of a margin. It will not be as much because the states which are left or states where a major amount of counting has not happened as yet, a significant number amongst them are Democrat backed states, kind of a thing. So I eventually think it will be around 290 if Trump wins, and 10, 20 or 30 seats less by Kamala Harris. It will not be as wide as the situation look. It will not be the gap will not be as huge as it appears at this point of time.
Yes, we have some updates as well that are coming in. There is the decision desk of Reuters, which is saying that the Democrats are being projected to seize control of the US Senate, and that number that got added to Kamala Harris's tally from 165 to 169 is coming in from Hawaii, the state of Hawaii, which is 4 electoral votes. So there is a bit of a change there, and that explains why Kamala Harris's numbers have gone up. So again, Hawaii is not a state which has been flipped by the Democrats here, Jayant Krishna.
Yeah, so see, eventually, if you look at overall, voting pattern, if you segment it gender-wise, I think more women have voted for Kamala Harris than for Trump. If you look at from in terms of education, graduates and above in the country, a sizable number of them have voted for for Kamala Harris and not for Trump. If you look at non-whites, a majority of them have voted for Democrats and not for Republicans. So I think, but if you look at American men, more have voted for Trump than they have voted for Kamala Harris. So I think these trends are interesting, and especially my worry would be if Trump wins, which appears to be the case at this point of time. Of course, things may go either way, even now, even at this stage. But if he wins, my worry would be more on the American economy, because he has talked about some very, very different set of economic policies, especially he's talked about jacking up import duty and he especially talked about countries like China and India. So I think which will be detrimental to the interest of India and China both. And what happens on the surface, he has said that, if he jacks up import duty across the board or in some select product categories, to protect the American domestic industry. But, it has been seen the world over, with such tariff barriers, you can do protection only to a limited extent and not to an extent he has promised, would benefit the American industry, the domestic industry. Or as a matter of fact, a lot of manufacturers who are dependent on imports, they may still have to import. And if they import by paying a much higher import duty, it would mean that, it will jack up the prices. And therefore, inflation on which Joe Biden government has done a reasonable job in last couple of years. Earlier, it was not that good. It may again go back and the Fed target of, controlling the inflation to 2% may not see the light of the day. Now, the other worry which I have is that if you look at the economic proposals of Donald Trump, eventually the borrowings, the government borrowings will go up. And if government borrowings, which where the rate of interest has gone up in some cases to as high as 4.25%, if we have seen it around the world, if government borrowings go up beyond a point, then it becomes riskier for people to invest in government borrowings, and that straight away results into a higher rate of interest. If the government borrows more and more money at a higher rate of interest, it's not a good story, because it would eventually lead to what do you call it? A higher, the ability of the government to service those borrowings and service those debts would be as much limited, because they'll need more money to service those borrowings. I think this is a concern, of course, on corporate tax. Both have talked about slashing it, but what they have not talked about, that if they do the slashing on corporate tax, how would they compensate? Because it's a difficult balancing act, and if they cut this, where they are going to reduce it. And the worry on Donald Trump winning is also on a couple of other fronts. For example, he has been largely a non-believer in the UN institutions. Not that UN doesn't need to be reformed. I mean, a lot of reforms are need to happen for UN to become a more effective body. But the fact is, if US is the largest financially largest supporter of the UN, and if that takes a cut, it would weaken the UN system more. Even the climate change, which is a global crisis today. Last time we have seen, when in 2016, when Trump became the president, we've all seen that how he had walked out of the Paris Accord and had weakened America's fight for climate change. So I think these are some very, very.
Yeah, you made some valid points, but what's left me scratching my head, and I'll go to my colleague Anil for that, is why are then the markets up? Indian markets are up. Bitcoin's also up, which is like an alternative investment instrument that traders rush to in times of uncertainty. Dollars, I believe, strengthened against certain currencies, weakened against some others. So very mixed signals at this moment, Anil, right?
The early euphoria that started off, the Dow Jones was almost up 1%, then down almost 257 points. Now back in the green, up almost 1.27%. That clearly is indicative of, if one looks at the larger picture, especially the stock markets reflecting on how election day results have been. The American stock markets leave you a bit confused. If you see the last 6 election days, all have ended in the green. So irrespective of the fact that, there was a change in guard in 2020 where Trump lost and Joe Biden won, the markets ended up in the green. So American markets are not very indicative, but surely one cause of concern have been the newspapers in America, where the editorial lines, most of the newspapers have refrained from calling somebody a clear winner, unlike countries like India, where editorials don't take sides. In America, you see editorials giving you a clear indication of who their choice is or who they think will win the elections. This time around, the newspapers in America have been pretty in an iffy situation, and I think it's got to do a lot with taking forward the thought that our guest just shared, of Trump indicating of being revengeful, if he comes to power. So, people are being cautious at the end of the day. I think stock markets, especially the American markets, not anything indicative. But clearly the Asian markets, the European markets that open in the afternoon would give us a much better picture on how this election result will have a trickle down on the markets. But yes, Bitcoin's up. Surely indicative, at least the Bitcoin industry is expecting that Trump is on his way to the White House. We'll wait and watch, but clearly the stock markets in America are never a reflection of how the election results are going, but I would leave it there. But the Indian markets clearly in the green, so they are anticipating, or at least how the world looks at it, is they are expecting no change to happen in America.
Yes, and while you were speaking, Anil, again the tally has changed, because Virginia has been projected in favor of Kamala Harris, and that has taken her tally up to 182, and Trump stays at 230. Jayant Krishna, your comments on these changing numbers, and could they be having a reflection or an impact, an impression on the markets and their changing numbers as well?
So which state has made that tally of Kamala Harris go up?
Virginia.
Yeah, so Virginia was expected. I think there's nothing very irregular about it. I think it was expected. So I think similarly, there's some other states from where results are likely to come, and that's the reason I said the gap would not be as huge as 230 and 182 as the situation stands now. It would be much narrower as more and more results trickle in. Even if Trump wins, and as I said earlier, there seems to be advantage Trump at this point of time. But I would not rule out it being anybody's game at this point of time, even at this point of time.
Yes, certainly, because again, if you look at some of these key states, particularly the blue wall states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, again, it's strange when you look at it. 86% of the expected votes have been counted, according to Edison Research, and Donald Trump is at 50.9% and Kamala Harris at 48.1%. Yet they have not projected in favor of Trump still, because things could still change. 14% of the votes remain to be counted in Michigan. 49% of the expected votes have been counted, so 51% still left. Donald Trump is up 51.9% to Kamala Harris is 46.3%. So there's a bigger margin there, bigger gap that Donald Trump enjoys, lead he enjoys, but no projection yet. These are very, very difficult states to call. In Wisconsin as well, again, no projection yet. Donald Trump at 51%, Kamala Harris at 47.3%, 78% of the expected votes counted, so still 22% yet. Minnesota, again, here there's Kamala Harris who's ahead at 52%, Donald Trump at 45.8%, so fairly behind there, 6.2% behind, 57% of the expected votes counted, so 43% still to go, so no projection there either. There are still quite a few states left where no projections have come in, includes Arizona as well, where the contest was quite close. Just a 0.6% gap between the two, but only 52% of the expected votes have been counted. So this contest, would you say even now, Jayant Krishna, very much open?
I would believe so. I would believe so, unless we have data for all 7 swing states, clearly with almost 85-90% of votes counted. Unless we have that data, and that also shows that in more than half of them, if Trump is leading, then it would further add to the advantage Trump. But it could be anybody's game, because these states in the past also they have behaved, very in a very unpredictable manner. These could go either way. So yes, I think I would still believe it could go, in any one direction.
And if you look at the projections that are being made by Associated Press, their map is quite interesting as well, and their numbers are also quite interesting, because they're putting Donald Trump at 230 and Kamala Harris at 210, Anil. So much closer contest where their projections are concerned compared to the relatively conservative Edison researchers.
Well, exactly. The reason for that they are calling it's because they have counted New York in. New York is gone Kamala Harris's way, Nebraska gone Kamala Harris's way, and also Virginia that we are looking at. So that's the reason why they have made it a much closer affair. The gap between the two is now down to 20 electoral votes. If one takes a look at those numbers, 210 to 230. But I would still say Pennsylvania, that's the crucial factor. Trump has got a big lead there. We'll have to wait how, especially in few regions where the blue wall is pretty strong, how are they able to maintain a status quo or hold on to that fort of power. And that's going to make this elections interesting. It's all going to boil down to those 7 swing states. One is already indicative, like in 2020, North Carolina going Trump's way. If there is a flip in either of the 6 states, or at least in 2 more states, we could see the red wall or the red dimensions changing or taking control of this presidential election. But as things stand, we need to wait for an hour or two till we get a better and a brighter picture of either the Democrats or the Republicans taking control of these elections.
Now, what about, it's way well into the night now, Jayant Krishna, as far as the US is concerned, through all its time zones, particularly in the East and Pennsylvania. As in the East, do you think the counting will continue at the kind of pace that has been set at the start, or will it slow down in the night and then pick up in the morning?
See, from what I remember, I don't know which way it's happening this year, but what I remember last time, the pace of counting in the night, it had slowed down quite a lot and it only picked up in the morning. So if the same trend continues, then we are into the night there in most time zones, in all time zones actually. For next few hours, there may not be a radical change, and then we'll see it only when there's the US morning next. So let's see. Unless they've made some different arrangement this time to have a fast track counting in the night as well.
Yes, it's past midnight in the east, and in the west it's just past 9:15 p.m. So into the night, people do get tired. We're all human, although some of the counting has been done by machines as well, Anil. But one can expect that things will now not move that dramatically.
Gautam, a quick update that I'm trying to get you, especially when it comes to the US Senate. You had asked me the question last time around. It seems, still not confirmed reports, but I'm quoting AP here. There were 38 seats of the 100. There were 38 seats that didn't go for re-elections. There are 13 seats that are likely to be won by the Republicans. So they have that 51, the majority number that's needed. So it looks likely. We'll wait for confirmations, but this is, according to AP projections, I'm looking at the numbers. The numbers indicate that at least in the Senate, the Republicans have managed to get that 51 seat edge, but we'll wait for the final numbers to come. And clearly, the Senate going Republicans' way. Again, you could almost see a split house here like it happened in 2020. Can Trump pull off, the magic here? The next few hours could be indicative of that. And also maybe the next few days, if one takes a look at Pennsylvania and few other states where election results generally take a lot of time to come. But at least when it comes to the Senate, things look comfortable for the Republicans. We'll wait for the final numbers to come out.
Okay, let's talk about projections across the board as well, because different networks are putting out different numbers. The maximum that Donald Trump is getting at this point of time is 247 DDHQ is the one that is projecting that. And the maximum that Kamala Harris is getting is 199. That's been projected by NBC. If you look at the minimum, Edison is the one that we are relying most on, is giving the least to Kamala Harris, which is 182. And for Trump, the least number is 230, which is being given by Fox, CNN and Edison, as well as AP. So, and CBS as well. So 230 is what most of the networks have Trump at. But for Kamala Harris, there's a wider range really at this point. 182, it goes from 182 to 216. Fox, in fact, which is a network which is decidedly Republican, that is projecting Kamala Harris's 216 electoral votes, and it's DDHQ, which is saying that Trump at the moment has 247. So these are the maximum numbers being projected for both of the candidates right now. Jayant Krishna, what do you make of this variance really in terms of the projections? Why do these variances creep in between different networks?
So yeah, because these are not exit polls. These are not opinion polls. They're actual numbers as they are getting counted. At least in India, if you look at while in exit polls numbers vary quite a lot, and opinion polls, they vary even more across the bodies which do it. But here in India, at least, when the election results are getting declared, all are in sync, and it's just that what all numbers, what all states, what all constituents they've been able to add up in their tally at any point of time, if that is any indication. And when the projections are made, different agencies have different models. It's not just a linear extrapolation, but also looking at their strengths of the two major parties, and the past track record and the early swings available. I think all those are factored while projections are made, and therefore you see this kind of a variation. I'm sure there'll be no variation when you actually talk about number of seats actually won, where elections have been officially, their outcome has been officially announced. Then there'll be no difference. But since many of them are projections and based on different modeling techniques, that's the reason you see this kind of a difference.
All right. There's more updates coming in as far as Reuters is concerned, Anil, because even the issue of abortion was on the ballot in certain states, and Edison Research has projected. The latest is that in Florida, it has fallen short, so it will not be adopted. But overall picture, if you look at, there's a mixed bag again, because it might have failed according to projections in Florida, but in Arizona, again, Edison Research has projected that it will pass. So mixed results there too, Anil, and they could also have a bearing on the outcome of the presidential race, couldn't it?
Well, no doubt about it, Gautam, because purely looking at two issues that have played very much, right and center in this elections. One is, Trump's call, especially on conservativeness on many issues, when it comes to immigration, all those issues that Trump has been very specific about. Kamala Harris, especially women's right, well, does she get the backing is, now too late to call. But what needs to be understood is that, as these elections move, as this counting process moves forward, there are still places where people are, waiting to cast their vote while polling stations are getting closed. Many reports trickling in that people are waiting, still long queues there for people to vote. So all in all, it's a very interesting race from a perspective of the Trump camp as well as the Kamala Harris camp, the Republicans as well as the Democrats. But this time around, though the Republicans have taken that early lead very much like 2020, can Democrats do the catching up? Because the gap that existed in 2020, the gap is much wider that Trump is open this time around. Can Kamala Harris and her team along the Democrats, can they pull things up? That's something worth looking out for. I think as the night progresses, we're going to see the counting become slower. We'll see the pace picking up once again in the morning. I think we will not be getting any clear picture about the swing states until tomorrow morning, and that's going to make make the night longer for either camps. But both candidates clearly indicated that they are going to come out and give a speech to their supporters, and that could be first clear indications on how things could pan out, because they would have the reports and they would both talk about especially the swing states for how things are moving, and that could be something worth waiting for in the next 2 to 3 hours.
But certainly one can expect them to come out and pep their people up who are watching the count taking place, because they wouldn't want them to slacken their vigil, because again, since it's a very contentious election and all kinds of allegations have been raised, both will stress that they need to be watchful where the counting is concerned as well. They've been watchful through the elections. Now they need to be watchful through the counting as well, although it will slow down. Right now the numbers stand at 230 for Trump and 182 for Harris. On that note, I will say thank you to both you, Anil, as well as Jayant Krishna, for joining us to talk about how these election results are panning out. What we know so far is Trump is leading Kamala Harris, but still it is an open race. The only thing that seems to be now falling in place is that the numbers in the Senate, the US Senate, seem to be shifting in favor of the Republicans. The Democrats are a wafer-thin majority there the last 4 years, but that seems to be changing now. The Republicans might have a thin majority there. The House is still open, that is the House of Representatives. We'll keep tracking all the results for you as they come in, the projections and the results. But for now, it's thank you for watching from me, and we will carry forward this updating of the results and the projections in the US elections with my colleague Tanvi. Stay with us.